And Mark, let's move on into, like I said at the beginning of the podcast, the most interesting and probably fun topic to talk about. I know we just got done with the Bears, but the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are on the docket, and this is where Buccaneer fans come into the podcast and go, see, we told you, Ricky, we weren't going to be the worst team in the NFC. Fitzmagic, Fitzmagic, Fitzmagic. Ryan Fitzpatrick had 417 yards in this game, 4 touchdowns, 0 INTs against the New Orleans Saints. Mark, I'm just going to ask this question and be blatant with it. Could Ryan Fitzpatrick affect Jameis Winston's future with the Bucs? Or is this just a, hey, it was a good first game, but Jameis is coming back week 4?
I think it probably is more of the nice job, Fitzy, but don't get too excited.
Don't get too comfortable.
Because Jameis was the number 1 overall pick. They're going to play Jameis when he is ready to come back. Although, I mean, if Fitzpatrick really does do a really good job, goes lights out, wins all these games while he's got the chance, there is some kind of valuable reason to say maybe you just stick with the hot hand, especially because Jameis has not been all that people expected him to be. But the unfortunate thing is that this is exactly who Fitzpatrick is. Mm-hmm. He's a guy who goes out there and really impresses you and then will really let you down the very next opportunity he has. I mean, just look at that whole time where he really, really wanted New York to pay him. They paid him, and it was not pretty that next season. Buffalo Bills fans know it. They've seen it game to game of, awesome, Fitzmagic's amazing. Oh, he's terrible. Mm-hmm. Get him out of here, please. So I don't necessarily buy that it's going to happen, but if he were to play how he was, 400 yards, 4 touchdowns, I mean, if he does that game after game after game, you can't pull the guy because Jameis is not the guy who's going to go out there, throw your 4 touchdowns, throw your 400-plus yards. That's not really who Jameis is. He's a different style of a quarterback. Mm-hmm. And the team was responding, apparently, to Fitzmagic, so I don't think he realistically actually affects Jameis's future, but in the dream world, if he does go out there and, 3-4 touchdowns a game, there's no reason to go away from the hot hand.
Well, and here's what I'm thinking into this is, do I expect Ryan Fitzpatrick to throw 4 touchdowns over 400 yards in the next 2 games? No. But what I'm focusing on the most when it comes to Fitzpatrick is basically the win-loss record. Is if this team is 2-1 after their first 3, or hell, if they're even 3-0 in their next 3, well, next 2 basically, because they already won the first one. Like, look at what we just saw. We saw the Buccaneers light it up against a defense everybody was really high on. I think I made the joke to Jake on Twitter. I might have held back on it, but there was a play where the Saints defense, their secondary messed up again. I was like, oh, looks like they didn't learn how to tackle over the offseason. But the thing I liked most with Fitzpatrick is this offense is so, this is the offense that we expected from when people were like, Dirk Cotter's the head coach. This is why you fired Lovie Smith, to have an offense like this. Mm-hmm. The Deshaun Jackson touchdown, the Mike Evans touchdown, how vertical Fitzpatrick made this offense. That is what I've been waiting to see from Tampa, and we just haven't seen it from Jameis. And, look at the next 2 games. Against Philly in Tampa, Philly didn't look great in that opening game. And I'm telling you, after that first one, the Super Bowl hangover might be high. And I know Nick Foles is playing.
Yeah, I think it's more just Nick Foles is there still.
But, I mean, that team didn't look as sharp as I expected them to look to start the year. I wouldn't be surprised if the Buccaneers take a stand and say, hey, we're going to win the first home game. Fitzmagic lights it up again, maybe 2 touchdowns instead of 4, doesn't turn over the ball, they win the game. Then you have the Steelers. The Steelers tied to the Browns. If the Steelers can tie to the Browns, they can lose to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, especially if Le'Veon Bell's not out there. That is going to be an interesting Monday night game now on my radar after week 1. And I'm sitting there going, if they win one of these next two with Fitzpatrick and he looks good, or if they win all three with Fitzpatrick and he looks good,
Yeah.
I'm telling you, if I am Dirk Cotter, if we're 3-0 after the first three games with Fitzpatrick, Jameis is coming back, and I'm saying, Jameis, I'm sorry I have to do this. Sit on the bench. And the reason why I'm doing that is because you ride the hot hand. A, you ride the hot hand. B, with the suspension and everything, people were already talking about Jameis Winston's future with the Bucs. And 3, a career record for Jameis Winston with the Buccaneers. He is 18-27.
Yeah.
And I don't see that record getting better than 500 anytime soon.
And over his career, which is only really 2 seasons, one game where he threw 4 touchdowns, one game where he threw 5. 5 in his rookie year against the Eagles, 4 against the Falcons last year. Only one game has he been over 400 yards. That was against the Rams last year, 405.
Why do you say only 2 seasons?
Well, this is his 3rd season.
No, he's played 3. He's been.
He played 2017.
Yeah.
I'm
He
sorry,
only missed
I was
3
off
games.
by
Yeah.
I was off by my 1 year, but still. With that being said, does not change the fact of what I just said.
Yeah.
Because he didn't throw for 4 or over 400 yards. And is Fitzmagic going to do that the whole season? No. But I'm just saying, if he's getting close to that
As
level of
long as
production,
you win games. That's
I don't
what I'm
even think
looking
about
at.
that. If he gets close to that level of production, you don't switch Jameis for that because Jameis has never done that. The flip side is, though, you could make the argument of, well, if Ryan Fitzmagic is able to do that, imagine what Jameis can do.
We saw it last year. He wasn't able to. We've seen him in a Dirk Cotter offense. He hasn't been able to do what Fitzpatrick did.
Yeah,
Like-
exactly. It hasn't been what people wanted, what people expected. And sometimes a quarterback and a head coach just don't get it. They just don't see eye to eye. They don't match up. They don't work out. And if that's the case, maybe Fitzmagic is a better option for right now. But the problem is, he's a 35-year-old quarterback who's been inconsistent throughout his entire career. So let's say, let's play the game. Fitzmagic wins these next 2 games. It doesn't matter how well he does. He's won the next 2 games, and he's going to start. Jameis is going to be benched. 2 questions. 1, let's imagine that Fitzmagic does fine throughout the whole season. What do you do with Jameis then? 2, let's say that midway through the season, Fitzmagic has done enough to get benched. You put Jameis Winston back in and just hope that all is well? That's the tough thing with a guy like this, your first overall pick.
Because we know that Jameis Winston, I'm going to just go ahead and say he's a crybaby. Yeah, he can be that emotional guy in the locker room, and he knows how to give a speech and talk to the guys. But boys, stand up. Girls, you stay seated. Kind of a thing. But if he got benched, he would take it, though. I would just see Jameis sulking and taking it the wrong way. I don't see him taking it well. So for me, it's easier said than done for me to say, oh, it's about wins and losses. If you're 3-0, you ride with the hot hand. But that's the decision you have to make as a Buccaneers franchise. Of Jameis, he's got this year, which...
This is season number 4.
Season number 4. Then you've got next year. Next year, you're paying him.
Option.
Next year, you're paying him, if he's on roster, $20.9 million. He is going up from, because of the suspension, he'll go up from $580,000 this year to $20 million next year.
But see,
is Jameis Winston worth $20 million?
But here's the problem.
Ask yourself that question.
This is the difficult thing for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So what do you do if you're not going to play him and you know that it's not going to work well for him getting benched? Do you trade him? Then what do you do after Fitzmagic's season this year? You're out of a quarterback. You don't have a quarterback anymore.
I mean, let's be honest. Depending on how well Fitzmagic does, I think at worst the Bucs could bring him back. But then it's
the Jets did that.
He's a year older. Yeah, but
and it did not work well for the Jets.
And the thing with Fitzmagic, he's 35. So if you're bringing him back, it's only for another year. But then he's 36. He's a year older. And
actually, he will turn 36 this season.
Then he'll be 37. Turn 37 next year, and his name's not Tom Brady.
Yeah.
So Father Time will catch up to Ryan Fitzpatrick. it's a catch-22 with the Bucs. Long term, it might not be the best answer, but I feel like if you win these next two with the Bucs, I ride Ryan Fitzpatrick because I look at the rest of the schedule as well. And yet again, it depends on how they look in these next two. But if they go 3-0, the Bears...
And those were good teams that you played.
The Bears are interesting because, yes, the Bears' defense is good, but we've seen in Game 1 this might be a season where the Bears might have some hiccups this year. Then you have the Falcons. They didn't look good in Game 1. Now, by Game 6, I'm hoping that they'll be a little bit better. By Week 6, they'll be a little bit better. Cleveland's good, but I feel like a Buccaneer team that played even 3 quarters like they did on Sunday will get the win. The Bengals are not that tough of a team. You have teams like the 49ers. The 49ers I'm putting a grain of salt on because they played arguably the best defense in the NFL. The schedule isn't the toughest for Tampa Bay. And I can see it happening this way of they start 3-0. Ryan Fitzpatrick puts them in such a situation to be better than most people thought. Jameis comes in and they sputter to like a 6-7 win season where he only gets them 3 to 4 wins. And it's like, really? You're telling me we couldn't have ridden the hot hand and maybe have done better? Maybe have made the playoffs?
Yeah. I just think it's such a difficult situation for Tampa Bay. Personally, for me, I don't see a way that you can start Fitzpatrick over Jameis Winston because if you do, you're going to, in my eyes, then you are losing Jameis Winston.
Well, and that's why you have to ask and answer the question.
Do you think he's going to be there?
Is he the future? Because he's only got 1 year left. Mm-hmm. And if you think he's going to be the future after that 50 or after next year, then yeah, go with Jameis. But if you're going to get rid of him anyways, and I am going to go back to 18-27 in his first 3 years, and I'm going to go back to, like you said, we have seen, and I know people are going to say, but guys, Ryan Fitzpatrick played last year as well, and not every game was like what we saw this past week.
That's his entire career.
But the thing that I will say, and this is what I am getting at, is in my eyes, I don't care what Ryan Fitzpatrick's stat line looks like. As long as he doesn't turn over the ball and we get the win at the end, just watching how vertical the offense can be with him out there looked better than what we have seen with Jameis. And you look at some of the games last year. Beats the Bears. Well, he only threw 1 pass in that Bears game, so that was a Jameis game. The Arizona one, they lose by 5 points. It's a 1-score game that they lost, and he had 3 touchdowns in that game. The New Orleans Saints game, he only threw 15 passes in that one. They lost by 20. The Jet one, they win by 5 points. The Dolphins, they win by 10 points. The Falcons, they lost by 14 points, 34-27. He had 44 attempts, didn't throw a single touchdown, but didn't throw a single INT. To me, at the end of the day, with Ryan Fitzpatrick, is he getting you wins? And if he's getting you wins, that might be the leading factor of what might keep him in over a Jameis Winston, because I'll tell you this, I am not high on Jameis Winston. If you listen to the podcast for some time, I've never been a Jameis Winston fan. The Buccaneers will never win a Super Bowl with Jameis. They'll never go to the playoffs with Jameis. The future doesn't look bright with Jameis. So
you want him to just cut it now?
If Ryan Fitzpatrick, and that's what I'm saying, if he goes 1-2 in the next 2 games, like, okay, put in Jameis. But if Ryan Fitzpatrick brings you to 3-0 against the Saints, Eagles, and Steelers, ride this one out. It's like a hot hand at the poker table. I'm riding, or like the roulette or something. Yeah, I'm riding this hot hand until it ends. Like, sure, you never leave the table when you're on a heater.
I think you can get away with maybe starting Fitzpatrick over Jameis once. Mm-hmm. After that, it has to be that answered question of,
then what if he goes 4-0?
Like, well, that's my point. You can only get away with it once. After that point, you're sitting there and you are making the change. Mm-hmm. Unless Jameis surprises the world in his maturity, and he definitely could. if he surprises the world in his maturity and is okay with sitting down, not only does he say the right things, but he actually means the right things.
Well, he'll say one thing, do another.
Yeah. And to me, I don't know that I believe the Bucs are ready to cut the cord from Jameis, and I don't blame them for not being ready because he hasn't been a bad quarterback. The team just hasn't been at the level it needs to be. He's been a fairly average quarterback to above average for the Buccaneers. And I don't think they're going to be ready to cut the cord on the number 1 overall pick in 2015, especially not for Ryan Fitzpatrick, a 35-year-old quarterback who probably he might come back next year, but there's a good chance he's not coming back next year because it's so far at the end of his season. And even if you want to trade Jameis right now, who are you going to trade him to?
The Bills.
I don't think the Bills are going to take him. Are they really going to take Jameis Winston, a number 1 overall pick?
I'm not saying
start him over their number 6, 7 overall pick.
When I say the Bills, I'm not saying trade him right now. I'm saying if the Bills are a team that the Bucs could trade him to, it would come down to, first off, because Nathan Peterman, I don't care what Bills fans say, I was right about Nathan Peterman. He's not a starting quarterback in the NFL.
We all have eyes. We know he shouldn't be out there.
It made me so angry. But the thing that it looks at is Josh Allen after his rookie season. You make the decision of, are we going to go through with this and progress, bring his potential and work with him, develop him?
They're not going to give up after 1 year.
But hey, that's.
I mean, it's been done before. It's been done before, but I don't think they're going to do that.
There's got to be, and let me just look at the teams really quick. There's got to be a team.
If they played Nathan Peterman, the Bills know that they're in for the long haul on Josh Allen. I just don't see anybody who's going to make a trade, and that's partially because the injuries haven't happened yet. Some quarterback will get injured, but I can't think of a team right now that I'm like, yes, they would jump on Jameis Winston if they could get a trade for him. Because it's like the Khalil Mack. It's like Le'Veon Bell. You're going to have to pay this guy in a year or two.
The only thing I can think of is there's 3 teams that I'm kind of thinking about, and that is the Bills, because at the end of the, and I'm looking end of the year,
they're not going to do it.
No. I'm just saying if, go along with me for a second. Go along on this ride. If they believe at the end of the year, you know what? Josh Allen just ain't going to work. Jameis Winston's already played in the NFL. Would I make that trade? No, but I don't like Jameis Winston. The other one is then this one's an injury. If Tannehill gets injured again, I would call up the Dolphins, say, hey, your quarterback keeps getting injured. We'll give you this one. Or a third team, depending on what happens to Eli after this year, the Giants. What if they need a quarterback? Kyle Luletta is the reason why Davis Webb was cut, they say. But Jameis Winston's actually played in the NFL. Yeah. Kyle Luletta's a 4th round
I just kind of feel
pick.
Like if you're waiting to the end of the year, then you might as well just bring Jameis back.
Well, and the thing is, that's the hard thing. You look at every other team in this league. The Jets don't need him. Sam Darnold looks great.
Everybody else has an option right now.
The Cardinals aren't going to trade him because they just drafted Josh Rosen. The Raiders are high on Derek Carr. You've got...
Yeah, I mean, no one else is going to get him because everybody's got a quarterback that they feel comfortable with or someone they're trying to develop.
What about the Jaguars?
They like Blake Bortles for some reason.
I'm saying, what if they lose again in the playoffs but they finally get the... What if they just get the realization... We need a quarterback.
But you really think that Tom Coughlin wants to work with Jameis Winston?
No, not at all. I'm just throwing a team out. I'm just throwing a team out.
No, I get what you're doing, but I'm saying there's no team that's going to want Jameis Winston.
Or what if Big Ben finally retires?
They drafted Mason Rudolph.
I like Mason Rudolph better than Jameis.
They drafted him for a reason.
I'll just be honest. I just don't like Jameis Winston as an NFL quarterback, mainly because of his maturity, but also because he doesn't win
as an NFL quarterback, he's fine. The problem is that he's got too many domestic-related issues and sexual assault issues that he's never been, convicted, tried, or anything like that. But there's just too many rumors and accusations that have revolved around him that I think so many people are not going to want to deal with it.
Lucky for him, there's no film, because look at what happened to Ray Rice.
Yeah.
Once there was film, out of the league.
As long as it's a video. If it's pictures, you can still come back in a year or two.
But if there's a video, boom, you are gone. You are out of the league. Ray Rice hasn't been seen since. And I just I know I said this before, this segment. It's a catch-22 for the Buccaneers because you've kind of...
And that's why Jameis will be back.
You're in bed with Jameis. But I feel like... I don't know. If Fitzpatrick is 3-0, I don't see Jameis Winston coming in and continuing the success with the Buccaneers. And
they have a week 5 bye. So that's why another reason why I think they can get away with saying Fitzpatrick gets that Bears game, then we'll go back and we'll put Jameis in there. Or we'll evaluate it later. But just with the circumstances, I don't think they can rationalize, knowing everything that will follow, why Jameis Winston should be on the bench and Ryan Fitzpatrick should be out there, even if he's winning games. I think what they're going to say is, well, if Ryan Fitzpatrick can do this, imagine what our number 1 overall pick, Jameis Winston, can do.
Here's what I would do. Here's my ultimate answer at the end. If Ryan Fitzpatrick goes 1-2, loses the next 2 games, Jameis starts week 4.
Makes sense.
If any other result happens, they win 1 or 2 of the next 2 games.
Assuming that Fitzpatrick is playing well.
Exactly. I would stick with Fitzpatrick, and what I would do then is this year you ride the hot hand until it basically goes out. If that's week 16, if that's not even at all this season that it goes out, you ride that hot hand, because I believe, I'm using the gambling reference again, you don't leave the table when you're on a heater.
But what does that do? That's how you lose your money.
But you're the Buccaneers. You're playing with house money because most people didn't expect you to win against the Saints in week 1. So at worst, Jameis doesn't play this year, you then start him next year. And I know that people would say, but that would ruin him. He hasn't been doing anything yet. So what is you keep him next year, you let him play, and then you decide what you're going to do with him. I ride the hot hand because especially for Dirk Cotter, because you got to realize this. You look at Cotter, this is now his 3rd year with Tampa. 9-7 his first year, 5-11 last year. If he goes 5-6 wins again, what's to say? If Jameis comes in, Jameis only wins 3 to 4 games, and they go 5 or 6 wins. Who's to say Tampa shouldn't fire Dirk Cotter because you've been 5 and 6 wins the last 2 years with Jameis Winston, your franchise quarterback. So if you go 3 wins with Fitzpatrick, ride the hot hand.
I fully expect that maybe the Bears game Fitzpatrick still plays if he did well. By that, I think it's the Falcons. The Falcons game
after the bye, I believe.
After the bye, Jameis Winston's back out there. Jameis Winston has not been a bad quarterback when it comes to stats. He just hasn't been necessarily that amazing quarterback. I mean, the guy will throw for 4,000 yards no matter what. But he's not going to be that 30 touchdown type of quarterback. He also has a little bit more interceptions than you'd probably like, more often than not. But the big problem for Jameis is just kind of, I don't want to call it the clutch factor because people get mad with the word clutch, but it's that big time moment. He hasn't been the guy that's gotten it done yet.
He's like the guy that doesn't study the entire semester, has a D rolling into the final, then gets an A on the final to pass the class. Like that.
I wouldn't say that because
where it's
stat wise, he's much better than a D.
No, but what I'm saying is he's that guy where it's oh man, just go, go, go. And then it's oh shoot, I need this clutch play. And then boom, wins the game. And it's
I'm
Jameis
saying
Winston
the exact
won.
opposite of that. I'm saying that Jameis Winston is good, but in those clutch moments, he's let people down. Because he's a guy, like I said, 4,000 yards in a season, 22 to 28 touchdowns in his 2 full 16-game seasons, 15 or 18 interceptions, depending on the year. He is around 60% overall completion percentage. He is a good quarterback stat-wise. This team is just not winning games. And that might be a coach thing. That might be a Jameis when it comes down to it. He's just not doing that one last thing that you need kind of thing. It's just kind of a disappointing time for them. I mean, you look at some of these games for him, and he's not doing anything too terrible with a few exceptions where, I look back to 2016, a 4-interception game against the Cardinals, a 3-interception game against the Cowboys. He has those really bad moments, and then he has really awesome moments too. Not necessarily a Drew Brees kind of awesome moment or an Aaron Rodgers awesome moment, but he does really well. He also has those poor performances too. So he hasn't, in my eyes, done enough to warrant the Buccaneers just flat out saying no, unless they're using the off-the-field issues as their excuse, their reason. When it comes to just pure performance, Jameis Winston hasn't done enough to get benched, so I don't think they're going to. He's the number 1 overall pick. Dirk Koetter might be gone, but Jameis Winston will still be here for the next coach.
The last thing I will use is, with me, it's all wins and losses. 18 wins for Jameis in 3 years.
Sure.
And really, he's been the 9 of those, so half of them have come in one season. That was Dirk Kotter's first year.
But wins and losses is not a quarterback stat. It's a team stat.
You know what? People say that, but when we talk wins and wins and losses, just like pitchers in baseball, quarterbacks are the only position where we talk wins and losses.
Which is completely true.
Only position that you can put a win or a loss
But when you got a guy who's throwing, like I said, for 4,000 yards a season, it's hard to make that argument that he should get benched when you have a coach who's done poorer than the quarterback has.
And that's why, like I said, if they go 3-0 in these next 3, then that makes that argument harder because it's like, hey, this guy's winning.
Sure.
This guy's winning with this team. Why can't you do it? But this is where you guys come in. Let us know what you guys think. What would you do if, let's say, the Bucs go 1-2, they go 2 wins, 3 wins in the next 2 games? What would you do? Would you play Ryan Fitzpatrick the rest of this year? Would you put Jameis in? Do you think that Ryan Fitzpatrick is going to affect Jameis Winston at all? Let us know what you think down below in that comment section.